Good morning! おはようございます。森尾町レディオ。今日もお相手は私、あなたの隣人甲斐原田。すがすがしい朝ですね。そんな一日の始まりにふさわしい曲です。今朝の一曲はこちらから。
Katface, wake your ass up! Wake up! Wake up! Wake up!
Give me another 5 minutes.
No, god damn it! We're doing another JoJo part, and I think this is your favorite one. Get up, you goddamn lazy cat! Get up!
I don't give a fuck. Listen to the radio. It's all nice and soothing and shit, and I'm all warm.
Well, you know what? If the radio won't wake you up, I think this intro will.
All right, yeah.
People, we are back. Welcome back to Planet Tyro for our JOJO'S Bizarre Adventure coverage. Guys, if you missed our other parts that we did all the previous anime and manga parts. Look on the YouTube card on the top right hand corner. But this time, we're getting to JOJO'S Bizarre Adventure part 4, if I'm not mistaken, which is called
Diamond is Unbreakable.
Diamond is Unbreakable. God damn, at the time of this recording, it more or less just ended. We gave it a little bit of breathing room. Everyone's talking about it. Everyone's very positive about it for the most part. But you guys want to hear our opinion, because our opinion on Planet Tyro is the only one that really counts. And I want to thank you guys that have enjoyed all the other reviews we did for JoJo. And I've been looking forward to this for a long time. But I'll tell you for the record, old boy, man, I'm so glad I did not watch this week to week. Because this would have killed me. And I don't watch any anime or TV series week to week. But this one in particular, I'm so glad I waited.
Would it have killed you because, like, you liked it that much and you wouldn't want to wait, or because it would have fucked up the pacing?
All of the above. I enjoyed it thoroughly. Spoiler, I enjoyed it thoroughly. And like I said, I don't think, even barring JoJo out of the way, anime week to week, I just don't know, man. Maybe you just call me a Netflix kid now, because I'm just spoiled. This was way before Netflix. I was doing things in bulk, but now with anime, and particularly this one, guys, if you haven't watched this show, watch it now because it's all out. But if you're watching anime week to week, if you watch this show week to week, leave a comment down below. I want to know about your experience, because this would have been too much for me. So anyway, guys, let's put all that aside. It should go without saying, guys, we're going to be talking about this show openly and with spoilers. So guys, look, it's a great show. I really enjoyed this show a lot. I highly recommend it if that's what you want to hear. But most of the guys listening to this are already JoJo fans, so spoilers. Guys, spoilers.
Yeah, spoilers. I mean, my little bits for people who don't know what JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is. It's mainly action adventure, but Diamond is Unbreakable specifically is more like a suspense thriller, and I really love it. It's my favorite story arc of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Even compared to the other anime series, the story arcs that came out recently within the last handful of years, very good artwork. I mean, it's not the most beautiful thing I've ever seen, but it's, especially because there is like an action adventure title mainly, it's a pretty good artwork. The biggest thing about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, though, is originality. When it comes to its action, it's not the same shit over and over and over again. A lot of it is everybody has their own unique powers, and basically the stronger somebody is because of how clever their ingenuity with their own power is.
You know what? Since you're the manga cat, and you spoke about this particular part ever since we even started recording the anime podcast years ago. I mean, you were like an original JoJo fan. So the first question I want to get is, obviously we're talking about the anime for the most part, but you actually read the manga, and you did say before with the other parts, they did a really good job of adapting the manga to anime form. So overall, you've seen 99.9% of it. What do you think of the translation from manga to anime? Could you talk about that and differences or anything you noticed?
Well, in general, yeah, I would say that the page to TV translation for all of the story arcs has been very good. I actually say I like watching it as an anime better than reading it as a manga for all 4 of the story arcs so far. This one in particular, this was just a blast. I mean, it was my favorite on paper and everything, but watching it and actually seeing all the action and everything happening, in motion was just so much better. I love it. I mean, we're already saying, spoilers, everything. This is like, I've already said this a bunch of times, but if you're new to this, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure story arcs 1 to 4 is a Hall of Fame run for me.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's really that good, and I'm not disappointed. If you had to ask me when we first started 7 years ago, would you want this animated? Do you think it's ever gonna get animated? Oh well, laughed and said this never gonna get animated, but yeah, I'd like it to be animated. So it's like I got a wish from 7 years ago granted.
But how faithful have they been with the manga? That's really my question.
Very, very faithful. I can't think of anything that's really changed out of any of the story arcs. This one's no different. It's like it's a literal translation. It's verbatim from my memory.
That is, wow, you couldn't ask for anything more of adaptation. But funny enough, I don't know if you noticed this, after this show finished, I was having a conversation with a few of my friends on Facebook, and we got into it. It was pretty fun, especially my boy, Joseph Compton, and he brought up something really interesting, which is a criticism of the show. Even though we love the show, I've got criticisms, and we're going to get into it to make it more interesting. Nothing's perfect, of course. So, you know what? I'll leave that for later. If you saw our last recording, guys, and you saw what I did on Stardust, I really did a breakdown, but I pretty much covered almost every episode. We're not going to do that this time, because I said I'm going to get into spoilers, but honestly, I don't want to orgasm over the show. I will tell you right now, I enjoyed this season more than Stardust. Everything Stardust did, this show did better. It was more creative, it was more enjoyable. And the funny thing is, this show is set in one town. They're not even globe-trotting. So I find that really creative that the mangaka created such great battles, such intricate battles, such intricate characters and interesting characters in one town, in one location. But again, I like that goes to the fact that you can use a little. You don't need to work with a lot to make it great. You can use a little and still make it really intriguing. And that's why I always say that don't rely on animation so much, because I know you were just saying you wasn't even sure this could be animated, and the animation is gorgeous. We'll get into animation as well, but it's not the animation that makes JoJo spectacular to me. It's the storytelling, the creative battles, and the characters in particular. These three things, with the animation's good, but the animation, like you said, isn't mind-blowing. It's the fighting, the characters, the intricate battles, these three things, and the animation is the last thing on the totem pole to actually seal the deal for me, you know? When I think about JoJo, I think about the opening, I think about the characters, but again, I think about the battles and the characters. That really stands out to me, so I don't really want to spoil it by going, oh, I love this episode. We'll do that a little bit, but I think we went a little bit too deep on the Stardust, so this time, it's going to be a bit of a shorter discussion, just to let you guys know. And it's a short anime anyway. This is 39 episodes, and JoJo Stardust was 48, so it's about 10 episodes less, I believe.
Yeah. Although, honestly, I think that's just how it translated, because they're about the same amount of chapters.
So just for the hell of it, and I'm only going to ask you to do this just so I can go through this systematically, give us the premise of this particular part, the Diamond's Unbreakable. Okay.
Diamond is Unbreakable differs from the other ones in the sense that it's like the world is in danger in the first three. Okay, and this is one of the things that actually makes the 1 to 4 run like Hall of Fame to me. Okay, so in Diamond is Unbreakable, instead of facing some all-encompassing evil that's gonna, do something to the world, you are set in one town, but the whole plot is there is a serial killer that lives in this town, and he was dormant for a while and he's become active again. So Team JoJo is trying to find him while dealing with a bunch of other side stories that pop up and all this other shit, but they're trying to find this guy. That's the primary objective. And then the secondary objective is they found out like very shortly into it that somebody, they assumed the killer is tied to it somehow. Somebody has a stand arrow, whereas if you get shot by this arrow, if you have the potential to become a stand user, you will become a stand user. Otherwise, you'll die. It's trying to deal with both problems at once.
Yeah, and this show, again, like Stardust, has a big episodic theme. And one of the complaints I was talking with my friends about, which actually I found it a positive, is that I actually found a lot of people saying that this show had a lot of false starts and a lot of villains that seemed like they were going to be the main antagonists. I mean, early on, you get these two brothers that seem like the main antagonists, and then you get another villain that's like this electrical bee kind of enemy, and you know, it feels like, wow, this is the main guy, or this is the main guy, and then you soon find out that it's actually this serial killer, as you mentioned. Now, the reason why I bring that up, and I know some people might disagree with me, the very, very, very first episode of Diamonds Unbreakable, the very first thing you see is someone cooking breakfast and a hand chopped off. So that is the first thing you see, and you don't see that again for a while. And then you see all these other bad guys I just mentioned. Now, some people complain that, oh, maybe the mangaka wasn't sure who the villain was going to be. And the reason why I brought up in the anime is because someone told me in the manga, that scene with the villain cooking breakfast in the hat is not in the beginning. And it just starts off with Josuke going to school. They don't actually prelude to this villain at all. He only comes in the middle of the manga. So is that true?
From my memory, yeah, I believe that's a valid argument. I mean, I'm going to come out and say I don't believe that, because you look at every other story arc prior to this, and the author had a clear idea ahead of time before he actually wrote the story. And when it comes to Diamonds Unbreakable specifically, this is the best way to put it. Okay, up until there are stands, you don't have this theme, but from this point onwards, my understanding is every final boss has some power related to time manipulation. So this is not something you can kind of put off while you're trying to fill in the blanks and, do 200 chapters. You kind of need to know what the fuck your guy's going to be doing before you ever start tying him into stuff. That's time manipulation is too complicated to just fucking wing it all of a sudden.
Well, we'll get to that time manipulation part, because honestly, that is right at the end, and I have a bit of a complaint with that. But way before that, when you're reading the manga, as you said, just based off your memory, you didn't know about Kira until, I don't know, the middle part of the manga. But when you saw these first enemies, did it bother you? Were you waiting for this big bad, this Dio-like figure? Or was you just enjoying the episodic themes? Because some people, that's a complaint some people had, that it felt like the manga wasn't sure of who the villain would be, even though I loved it. Don't get me wrong. I didn't care. I was just in... The villains were so enjoyable, I didn't care. And every time I found out that this guy, like the water guy in the beginning, wasn't the villain, I was like, oh, it's not him. Then it was the electrical guy, and it wasn't the electrical guy. I was like, wow. And funny enough, I kept on thinking that, okay, the water guy was great, the electric guy was great. Maybe he doesn't know what he's doing. And is someone going to come that's even better than those two first guys? And the guy he came up with, Keel, was even better. So at the end of the day, I can understand why some people thought that these antagonists were false starts, but to me, it was being raised. The bar was being raised, and what we got at the end was someone that was much more threatening, who in this town had a legacy of being someone very dangerous. And like my friend said, in the anime, they might have put that in the beginning from the manga that wasn't there. But if they did that as a change in the anime, I think that's perfect. I thought it makes perfect sense. But even if it wasn't, and that's how the manga was, I don't think I would have cared. And I know I went a bit off topic going in this direction, but I just wanted your opinion on this first.
It's not off topic at all, because actually I do have one of the few complaints I have about the story arc is tied to that, the false start thing. But no, it did not bother me at all. I didn't notice at all. I don't care. It's like when I go into a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure story arc, I'm not expecting one long running, I gotta get this bad guy thing going on, even though that's how the other ones ran. I'm looking for a bizarre adventure. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah. And I will say this, I think it's a fair criticism, because other animes have done that and I've hated it. But again, the mangaka, he writes the antagonists so well that I enjoy them. I enjoy their powers. I enjoy what they're doing. So every time one comes along, and if you look at his track record, he knows how to write them. So I had no fears, but I do think it's a valid criticism, because in the anime, they do that a lot. They make these false starts, these red herrings or whatever, and then you end up with a very lackluster story. Especially, and I mentioned this on the Legend of Korra review, you bring up an antagonist that has really cool potential, and then you replace him with one that ends up being even worse. It's like, wow, you had a really good villain, and you know the big bad ends up being someone that is like, wow, the previous guy was much more interesting than this guy. But Kira ends up being he ends up being a great ultimate villain, and I don't know. I honestly don't care if he had it planned or not. It's a valid criticism, and again, a lot of people actually criticized it, but again, this is one of those things where I think if you're watching it week to week, or you're reading it chapter by chapter, you might be thinking, what? It's not this guy? You might be frustrated in that kind of regard.
Yeah, I could totally see that. I mean, it doesn't bother me. I didn't notice it. As I stated, like when I read JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, I'm just looking for a bizarre adventure. But like a more valid criticism, actually, in my opinion, which is kind of tied to that, is not the antagonist thing, it's the protagonist thing. Okay, I don't know if going from still images or whatever, that form of storytelling to seeing it animated, or they just chose a different method of like lumping the story together when it doesn't need to be in order exactly. I felt like Josuke wasn't really a protagonist. I don't know if it's because he has like stereotypical protagonist traits, but I felt like Koichi was the protagonist up until the very end. Like up the very last battle, Josuke does step up, and it's like, okay, this is the protagonist. But like up until that point, like when I was reading it, I was like, this is more like, in a way, it's cool, but it feels like this secondary guy is actually the protagonist.
You know what? I don't blame you at all. And you know what? We're going to actually talk about each character individually. But before we get into the characters and story, let's just get the animation out of the way, because I want to go a little bit deeper into the animation. Now, one of the things that took me away straight away is the character designs, the way they're drawn, the characters themselves. They look similar to Stardust, the same builds, the same all that. But the actual, I don't know why, correct me if I'm wrong, but this whole anime, this series looked more comic-y to me with the way they draw the city, especially. Is it an orange sky in this city? I'm like, whoa, this is weird. The sky is orange in this anime?
You know what, and this is something that like longtime fans are they're on the end of this meme, is that the first 3 story arcs, it's like big buff men, it's like the prototypical
shonen muscle men, wrestling men.
Shonen muscle men, power guys. We're just gonna power through you and everything. And then like from 4 on, it gets a lot more pretty, and like a lot of people will actually, a lot of fans will actually joke about it. It gets fabulous.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how. In the manga, like the very first title picture with Josuke, he has this really borderline effeminate pose.
Yeah.
Like, JoJo poses are always kind of, sometimes they look like not very questionable in your sexual orientation, and other times it kind of does. That's what makes it a JoJo pose. But
Joseph did that a hell of a lot in Battle Tendency.
He did do it a lot, but there was no doubting his sexual preference.
Yeah.
But it's just like, this is, from this point on, even if it is my favorite story arc, it does get fabulous. It gets prettier, it gets fabulous. They were like super bulk and everything, and now they're, even though like you do see at times like Josuke and Okiyasu, they're muscular and everything, but they look a lot slimmer than the previous
Stardust.
Story arcs. Yeah, 100%. Well, not just Stardust, but the previous 3 story arcs, they were like, everybody was like super buff, and now they're like slim.
Yeah. Yeah, they had that Fist of the North Star model down, but now they moved on to it a little bit more modern, a little bit more slim. I completely agree. I will say that I did feel like in the first episode or 2, I had a different impression of Josuke. He did seem, obviously with his hairstyle and his mannerisms, he did seem more flamboyant. But then he turned, actually, as it went on, he turned more into a deviant and to more of a typical school deviant. And I was like, oh, I thought he was more. But in the very last episode, he does do the iconic model, gayish, stylish pose again, and I was like, I wish you did that more in the anime, because it would have been more consistent. But it seemed like he only did it at the very beginning and at the very end. And just like you said, Josuke, I didn't feel like he was a protagonist. And even when Jotaro came in and Koichi, like you said, it actually felt like this was, I would say an even ensemble, but it's not, because Josuke, like you said, he actually becomes a very background character for most of it, and you don't really feel like he's the protagonist. And I will say, and I'm kind of diving into the characters, should we talk about the animation? I will say, I thought his powers were a bit over the top.
Dude, I mean, we said all we needed to say really about the animation. It's okay to get into the characters,
Well,
bro.
one more thing about the animation, which is always a highlight, is the openings. I want to get this out of the way straight away, because that's where you get those flamboyant poses. The first opening is beautiful. They're all posing with the lights and the zooms, and I mean, David production. The animation
David Productions. Oh, God, David Productions.
The animation studio, fantastic again. I have to say their names. They do absolutely fantastic opens. I love the first one. I think the second one is okay. The third one was kind of meh. The openings are really good, and that's where they always put a lot of to me, they put a lot of creativity into the animation in those openings, which are really stand out to me. And I wanted to bring that up before we move away from the animation.
Yeah, they're really great. I mean, before they had released any of the episodes and everything, and then the first time I saw that first opening, I was really excited. I mean, I was like, yes, this is JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. This is what I was looking for. And I mean, the second one, it was cool and everything. I wasn't crazy about the song, but like the way it looked, it was really cool though, for sure. So I mean, it's just, I like it. I mean, I think you're a fan of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. It's not going to let you down.
Is it? Because people said this opening for this series, the first opening for part 4 is the best opening. I still think Battle Tendency has the best opening, personally.
Visually, I still love the way Battle Tendency's opening is.
Yeah.
But my favorite JoJo's song is Stand Proud, which is the first opening to Stardust Crusaders. That one just, I'm sorry, it's an action adventure story that gets me pumped.
It's pretty good, and there's more flashes in the manga in that first one as well when they're doing the animation. But I just wanted to bring it up because everyone says this is the best opening, and I didn't like it when I first saw it when I was watching Stardust. But now that I've seen it upon multiple viewings, I'm like, no, it's a pretty good one. It's definitely, I think they're all pretty consistent. But let's move away from the open. That's all the animations I wanted to talk about now. Anyway, and except for the animation is very gory with the violence. I really enjoyed that, just as gory as Stardust, even more violent in some places, especially with some of the villains, some of the shit they do to people.
That is the difference between the manga and the anime. They do sort of censor it, like they kind of black it out or whatever in the anime. They did the same thing with Stardust, but yeah, I mean, if you are really that much of a gore fiend, you do get it uncensored in the manga.
All right. Without any more hesitation, let's talk about the characters separately in depth. Let's talk about our, in quotes, main character, Josuke. Now, we pretty much said a lot already about him, but what I do want to say is the first time I saw him and I saw his powers, which is so funny because it did remind me a lot of JOJO'S with the punches, but him being able to basically repair things and destroy them at the same time, I thought this was a little bit overpowered. But the thing I like about it from a narrative perspective is it allows the story to be more grounded if you've got someone that can heal people, because then you don't have to have resurrection, because he's basically healing most of the characters. And I just feel like it was a nice plot device to have Josuke there to heal most of the characters, even though there was 1 or 2 times where they said, oh, you can't bring people back from the dead, but there was 1 or 2 times where he practically did bring people back from the dead. They weren't, I guess he has a time limit on how long he can do it, but there was one scene in particular where a boy practically blew himself up.
Yeah, he didn't practically, he exploded. He was like, it wasn't like still in one piece when he healed him, like he shattered to pieces, and he's like, no, you come back to life.
I was like, okay, I thought you couldn't, but I guess maybe he's got 10 seconds. It doesn't matter, it's anime. Why am I quibbling over details on fiction? But I thought it was a bit overpowered, but the fact is, like we mentioned before, they actually don't use Josuke. They don't abuse him as much as they thought they would. I thought he would be front and center, healing everyone all the time. The fact he can't heal himself, you had to put that in there. If he could, he would just be ridiculous. He'll be like immortal.
He would have been worse than Dio. I mean, he would have been unbeatable.
Yeah, but it's just like you said, I was surprised how much he just kind of went into the background. But to be honest with you, I actually, just like with Stardust, I actually don't really like him anyway. He's not very interesting. He's got more emotion than Jotaro, which I appreciate, but he's kind of just he's a vanilla deviant The only thing that didn't make him vanilla is they had 1 or 2 episodes with him that really made me question this guy as a nice person. Like one episode in particular, which I don't want to get into detail.
Let me guess the money one.
Yeah.
Oh man, like
it wasn't the money one per se, because that one, he was just being a bit of an opportunist. Is when he tried to basically, I don't want to say rob, it's when he tried to wrench out the manga man. When he tried to, I got this alien now.
Oh yeah, the gambling one where he tried to cheat him.
That was really fun. I'm like, no, that is just straight out, you being bad. And the guy, and I'm going to talk about the manga man, because he's one of my favorite characters in the whole show, by the way.
That's Rohan Kishibe.
Rohan, thank you. And that was the 2 times. The money thing, the money episode we're talking about is when Josuke and his what's the other guy? The guy I really don't know. Okuyasu. They come up with a plan. They meet a fellow stand user who has these little bugs that goes. They help the guy reach his full potential. That one, I don't feel like they were being bad, because first of all, they were helping him out. Oh, you're using this to get vouchers. Why don't we use this to find a lottery ticket? And it kind of, that fucking little bitch, little asshole, just abuses them to the point where they have to turn on him for good reasons. But to be honest with you, what ends up happening to that little guy is extremely sad.
Yeah, he gets his just desserts. I mean,
no, he gets more.
I don't think he deserved that. He might have been like a cheapskate, asshole, greedy kind of guy, but he didn't deserve what happened to him.
So putting Josuke aside, man, I'm just gonna get to my main quibble about the whole series, man.
Let's get it out.
Oriyasu, is that his name?
Okuyasu.
He is the most useless character in the whole show. I couldn't stand
Which
him.
is weird, because he has like one of the best powers.
I said this online. I said he has one of the coolest powers. I was like, this guy is gonna be awesome. The guy, I swear to God, from the episode that first fight he had with Josuke where they were enemies and became friends, the guy only had like 1 battle until the very end, where he came in, and even at the end, I didn't like that. But we'll get to that later. But most of the time through the whole anime, he's basically a cheerleader. Josuke!
He's just there for emotional support, really, and for laughs.
Dude, you know how many times he was watching Josuke fight or watching the other people fight and not doing anything? I'm like, dude. There was one episode where he was fighting the electric guy, and that was the one episode he had to kind of fight, and he basically died as well, by the way. He literally died, and Josuke brought him back from an arm or something. I was like, what the fuck? That makes no sense. But look, through the whole show, he was completely useless. And again, the mangaka did this in Stardust with the fire guy. I can't remember his name. Where Abdul, exactly. And I was just like, but to be honest with you, I didn't like him anyway. He's a bit of a bully. I just thought, you got such a cool power. I mean, there was times where they were running places. I'm like, dude, you could just jump ahead.
Well, there's another time. This is kind of like my observation with Polnareff and his shooting his rapier. It's like, use your power. They were fighting the guy. He had Superfly, the tower where only one person could go in and one person could leave.
Yeah.
It's like, just fucking make him teleport to you. What are you doing?
The potential for his powers, he could, with that kind of power, you could literally fly. You could jump in the air and keep bringing it forward. I mean, I was like, one of my friends online, Joseph, again, I gotta give you credit. I said this online after we watched it, and he was like, you know what? But he's an idiot. He's dumb.
He is dumb, but I mean, his stand power is instinctual. I mean, that's a lot of their stand powers are basically instinctual. So it's not even much about thinking. It's like, if you want to hit the guy, you would instinctively teleport him to you so you could hit him.
Dude, and it's not that. He's sitting there most of the time screaming, just screaming. I'm like, dude, do something. So I hated him. I thought he was underused, but I didn't like him anyway, so I didn't care. And the mangaka actually focused on other characters I loved a hell of a lot more. And I'm going to give the MVP award to who, oh boy, I think you already said it. The MVP. Koichi, he's a dog.
Koichi, man. The craziest thing about him, though, is he doesn't really have a fighting stand, but he's really cool still.
Do you know what he reminds me of? Before we get into him, when I was watching this kid, I was like, you know what? You remind me of Gohan.
Yu-Gi-Oh? Oh, I was going to say Yu-Gi-Oh.
No, well, I guess I can see that as well with his hair and his size, which is true. He's like Yukimoto. But he reminds me of Gohan, someone that I didn't really like. He was this weaselly little kid, but he became a Saiyan, like a Super Saiyan 2. And I'm like, wow, this kid's going to be something. But that fucking Toriyama did nothing with Gohan and actually made him even worse and just destroyed him and just brought Goku back. But in this show, they made this kid start off again like the softy kind of guy, but he became a fucking man. He became a man. He had one of the coolest stands in the whole show, one of the funniest stands. He had the best episodes. He had some. I was surprised he had some of the most fights. He ended up even having a fucking girlfriend that tried to kill him. I'm like, dude, this guy's the shit.
Yeah, this guy, definitely one of my favorite JoJo's characters. You know, Koichi, one of the reasons why I feel like he was the protagonist too is there is no growth with Josuke.
No,
but he starts out with no stand, and you see a natural progression all the way to from beginning to end of the story arc, where he gets to be, you know, like a lot stronger, and he becomes a lot more ingenuitive. Yeah. And it's just like I like him a lot. His personality, you know, he's kind of he doesn't want to get involved with stuff. He's kind of like a stereotypical Japanese guy, actually. You know, he tries to mind his own business. He doesn't want to get involved with stuff, but then he has a very strong sense of right and wrong. You know, he wants to be a just person, so he'll always end up going backtracking and doing the right thing if he doesn't at first.
I gotta bring up my 2 moments with this kid. Well, they don't do this a lot in anime. There's 2 moments, and if you ever do this with a character, I fall in love with him straight away. I can't be very specific because I don't remember what fight he was in. He was in one fight in particular, and he was getting so scared. He was, oh, my stand. And he turned him and said, why the fuck am I getting scared? I should be getting angry. That I'm angry. And I know it was one of the best episodes in the whole series, but it was he was fighting Kira, and he was fighting Kira.
His very first main appearance.
Yeah, and he had a 3-way fight with Kira and Jotaro, and Kira had this like time bomb stand that was detecting his heat, and he was getting so scared because this thing was homing in on him. But he was like, you know what? Fuck this! I ain't gonna be scared no more. I'm gonna beat this thing. And then later his stand evolved, and I'm like, wow, you hardly see wimpy anime characters turn around. Fuck this! Yeah, I'm gonna die. I'm not gonna cry. I'm gonna get upset. That's what I'm gonna do. And you know what? He made it happen. And the second moment, of course, was when Kira was beating the shit out of him. He was literally smashing his face, and he was like, you know what, man? Fuck you. And he knew he was gonna die, and he died like a G as well. He was like, you know what? You're a pathetic little bitch. You let me beat you. And he actually made Kira the most upset in the whole series. And I will say this as well. If it wasn't for him, the series couldn't end, because he actually ended up killing Kira. He was the one that held Kira's hand down. And if it wasn't for that, they would have all lost. So actually, in a way, he's a protagonist because he saved everyone twice. He beat Kira almost twice.
Oh, man. Well, this is the thing I feel about this story arc, and what makes it great is it is an ensemble cast story arc. I mean, the protagonist, quote unquote, Josuke, he's more of a background character, which is both good and bad. I mean, for an ensemble cast style, good thing. I liked it a lot. And I love Koichi. I mean, I liked him as a character. I'm glad that he had the most fights. He had the least fighting potential with his stand, yet he did the most. He was really good. He was clever, and I liked it a lot. I mean, Josuke is really clever too, and that's one of the things that makes it cool seeing his fights and everything. Like, he doesn't just plow and power through things like, you know, Jotaro would, but it's still, I mean, it's what you get in the end of it is everybody has very different, unique powers, and for the most part, you get to see them showcase them here and there, or when it really matters.
I got to bring up one more thing about Koichi though, and then we'll leave him because I spent too much time with this guy. His stand, funny. SHIT.
Yeah, his stand's the only one that has a personality so far in the entire series of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Yeah, his stand always makes us, and it reminds me of how funny Joseph used to be. The little kid had the whole package. Just move away from him. He's the MVP of Diamond is Unbreakable. But let's move on. I got to rush through some of these other ones. Now, you know what? I said this in Stardust a lot, man. I did not like Jotaro. Jotaro, I didn't even know Jotaro was going to be in this series. But again, one of the best things about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, it's a continuous story. It's a timeline, a family timeline. So it was awesome seeing back. And this is what I liked about this series. Now, Jotaro's too cool for school persona, I hated it in Stardust. It made him so boring. But in this series, his persona matched his age. As a mentor in this show, he actually was likable. And I forgot about something about Jotaro. In Stardust, he was kind of like Yu-Gi-Oh! Because he basically always stepped in and just figured out and just was easy to like... He basically fixed every situation, whether it was by power or by smart. So, like when he outsmarted the gambler guy, it was wit. But in this show, Jotaro, to me, he actually proved himself to actually be more or less a genius. When he came in the show, he was a pure tactician. He always came in and was telling Josuke, we gotta analyze this. Even when Josuke was very hot-headed because he's young, which is understandable, and that's a family trait to be.
He did that with everybody. He did it with Koichi too. Koichi was getting really out of hand. One of your favorite fight scenes there, the first time they fought Kira, he's like, dude, no, listen to me. I have experiences.
Yeah.
You should. I think he says, observe and proceed forward carefully, and that's like his motto for the entire story arc. He tries to teach the others that, like you're saying, and he sticks to it. He really does stick to it.
I really like Jotaro on this. I'm like, wow, this guy has really become the character he should have evolved to. I know he's actually been in the Marines now, and although he's still got that hat, which I still, I'm upset he's still got, even when he's getting fucked up, that hat never comes off his head, which is funny. But he looks better in the white. His suit looks way better. He looks much cooler. But in this show, I absolutely loved him because he was a tactician. He got fucked up as well. He got fucked up more in this show than he did. One of my favorite episodes, which I'm going to save till later, is when him and Josuke go hunting this fucking rat.
Oh, dude, that's so fucking good too. Like, you know what I have to say about Jotaro is, like, clearly the most powerful character in the series.
Yeah, yes.
Like, he has the ability to stop time, which is like, holy shit. That's the holy shit power. And then his stand is like just physically dominant. And he has a great reputation that everybody knows it. Anybody that has a stand user they know, don't fuck around with this guy. But even though he's the most powerful character, he still is not. He doesn't steal all the spotlight. He is a supporting character, and that's what makes it really good. That's how you go from like basically over the top with Stardust Crusaders, and you take a step back. And instead of being like even more ridiculous and even more ridiculous, like say Dragon Ball Z and Dragon Ball, whatever. Yeah. You go backwards and somehow it makes everything great. You have this super powerful character. Well, he already has time in the limelight. We can use these other weaker characters, and you can be a mentor character. It's just the way they use them is so fucking fantastic. I mean, just going from the super powerful character to he's still like super powerful and everything, but he's not the main character, and he's not. And that's what makes that great.
I have to praise the mangaka on this particularly. Now, Jotaro, like you said, is the most powerful stand user in the series. And one thing I love is that the mangaka also lets the enemies address that. Or even the main antagonist knows that this guy is for the longest time he said, this guy, most of the bad guys though, I gotta take this guy is the bigger problem than Josuke. This guy, we need to avoid him. And I love that. And even though at the end of Stardust, the guy was fucking flying with Dio like Dragon Ball Z and all that stuff, you have to bring it back. But they use tactics to show why, even though, Jotaro can stop time and all that, he has his limits. He's still got the time limit, even though at the end he didn't. So I was a bit like, okay, whatever. They had to bring it back a little bit. But even when he's fighting these guys like Kira and the Electric Bee guy, he still gets in situations where he's still human. He's still human, and when he gets attacked, even though I question it, like, in Stardust, he probably wouldn't have got hurt that much, but especially the bomb guy attacks him like twice, and I'm like, if you're going to be hit by a bomb, that's how you're going to, you're going to feed it, and I believe that. And still, when Jotaro got his attacks in, I fucking loved it. Every time he got his attacks in, I went back to Stardust, my heart started going, I was loving it, so to come off the dick ride and Jotaro for a minute, he was really done well. He was a great addition. He was an absolute great mentor. And before we get into some of the new characters, I will say that when I saw them bringing back Joseph, I thought to myself, this is fan service, and I like it. And to be honest with you, I was debating that, okay, he's gonna die in the series. I mean, because it's the only, he's so elderly, he's not like elderly like in Stardust where he's just a kind of comic relief but can still fight. This time, he's elderly and pretty much useless. So to me, I was like, why is he here? Because you're not doing anything with him and you're not gonna kill him. There was one episode where he kind of was gonna kill himself. I like the fact they had a dichotomy between him and his son, which is the main reason why I was here, to kind of bring it all together. I like that emotional part, but I was like, maybe you shouldn't have brought him in at all. It would have been better if it was just Jotaro. Bringing him in for fan service for one episode would have been fine, but what's he doing here? He doesn't do anything. I don't know. I love Joseph is my favorite JoJo. Everyone knows that. I said this multiple times, but this time I was kind of like, even for comic relief, you probably could have done without him, even though they don't use, he's hardly in the series at all, really. I'm like, he doesn't even meet Josuke's mum for that. I was waiting for that meeting so she could fawn over him. That never happened. So I was kind of like, okay, well, I don't know, man. It kind of felt like fan service that didn't deliver, but whatever, I don't know. I just felt that
Felt like his appearance was bizarre.
Nah, I didn't. I felt, I would usually say that it was kind of just, I don't know. I just wish he got killed. Just for the extra, it could have worked as an emotional beat, but he just went back.
You know what? I'll address that a little bit later on as one of my criticisms. But I like seeing him again. It's kind of cool. But it's like you said. Was he really pertinent to the story other than being Josuke's father? No, not really. That's just that fact is basically his importance in it. Because he originally came because his power with Purple Hermit is you can find people or you can find things that you're searching for, and then he just kind of never doesn't use it after he gets there for finding Kira.
Well, yeah. So let's just wrap up the other characters. I mean, I'm not gonna go through all of them. There's so many stand-use that kind of, as soon as they beat them, they kind of join their team. But only one in particular to me steps up and becomes the bigger part of the team for the most part. And that's the manga character you mentioned, but is it Rohei or Rohan?
Rohan Kishibe, which, fun fact, he's supposed to be like the alternate ego of the manga author.
It had to be. I was like, you can't put a manga character and not be a reflection of yourself. I don't know where to start with this guy. I mean, I'm not going to drone on and on about him, but his power was, not only was it absolutely fucking awesome and creative, but it was horrifying to actually watch in animation. Seeing him pull people's faces off into books was disgusting and terrifying. His personality is so funny. He's basically
he's a tsundere.
Yeah, exact. Thank you. I was just about to say tsundere, but he's likable and he's a good guy. But he's funny. And he has his own episode. He has like 2 or 3 episodes as well. And he's one of the most saddest character. He has an episode which I'm sure you found funny, which was not the best episode, but it was funny. It was when he was fighting the Junkan kid, the rock, paper, scissors kid.
No, that was a great one. Are you kidding me?
I knew that the mangaka was inserting himself in the series, but the character was fun. He had a great battle when he was an antagonist with the guys. And when he came on their side, he was another methodical protagonist, someone who was helping the team, who was thinking things out, and even though he's very standoffish and very, it's an asshole, he's likable. And man, he's my second favorite character because he's so integral. He becomes integral to the story, to be honest with you. And in the last episode where that time thing comes in and you kind of see him have a kind of a bad end-ish kind of thing, but I've really enjoyed watching him, and he's the only side character I really want to get into, because some of the other ones, they don't stay long, like the girl with the hair, whatever, and the guy who's can run really fast and becomes a friend, whatever. But the manga guys are only the 3rd tier side character that really made a difference to the show, to me.
He's probably basically the 3rd most important character, I think, but I liked him a lot. I mean, I think his power, especially if you're thinking of this as a suspense thriller instead of an action adventure, he had one of the most important powers too, because they're trying to find this guy. They're trying to find the fucking killer, and he has the most investigative power of the group.
Yeah. All right, so we have to get on to the last most important character, which again, we're already in spoiler territory. So now we're going to talk about the main antagonist. I want to say, man, this is what really sold me on the whole show. When I found out, when I saw him first, a serial killer, I actually thought it was just going to be another kind of 5 episodes enemy. He's a serial killer, he's been around for a while. I'm like, maybe, he'll be around, but there'll be someone bigger than him. So when I first heard about what he did to the girl, I really hated him. Just off the bat, what I heard, what he was doing, very deplorable, very despicable guy. And then when I was a little bit confused on the timeline of him getting his powers, because at first they told that he was just a normal serial killer. Then at some point he got stand powers. They explain that later, which is something which is one of my biggest quibbles, by the way, which is his father, which I'll get into that is a big problem I have with the show, actually. But I hated this guy, but the thing I loved about him, when you make a villain vulnerable, even though he's a serial killer, he's kind of a serial killer that is down to earth. He's like a very like a low level serial killer. He's a serial killer. I'm not saying low level in the fact of this is the kind of guy that exists in our real world. He's a fucking serial killer. We've seen people like him on the news. And the thing with him is he's not super maniacal. He doesn't want to take over the world. He wants to kill and have his life at the same time. And he wants to hide and do it.
Yeah, he's basically, he wants to hide in plain sight. He's it's not that he wants to kill a lot and everything, is he's compelled to. He has a compulsion.
Yeah.
So he wants to live a normal life, and then he has to work his I don't even want to say addiction, but it's like this thing he has to do that he can't help. He has to work around that.
And it kind of makes it more terrifying to me, because it's like, you know what, this guy doesn't even want world domination. He just wants to keep on killing. And when you watch him, and the thing is, the anime, the story takes the time to watch him live his delusional life, chopping off hands and cooking dinner for these invisible girlfriends and doing all these fucking weird things. And just seeing him at first, like, man, when I realized he was the main antagonist, I'm like, wow, man. But then I started to think, this guy can't be the main. I mean, I didn't, I was like, whatever. It doesn't seem that dangerous. He's killing women anyway. He's not really going after the guys. But he's the kind of guy, it's like, look, I'm not going to fuck with you unless you fuck with me. And when they start hunting after him and they come into a circle and the mangaka makes his power very strategic. Now, here's my problem with Kira. It's his power.
All right, let's go. Let's get into it.
Now, his power is, I understand it, it's a 2-level power. He's obviously, first, he can blow people up. But then he has a secondary power. What's it called? Heart attack?
Yeah, the one where it's like a heat-seeking bomb.
It's like a heat-seeking bomb. And then, this is my thing, I was like, okay, I kind of had a problem. I love the strategy behind it. And I love the fact they have to take it very seriously. Like, JOJO can stop time, but even that, the fact that there's always more than one person involved, and he would take hostages and he would kill the innocent, that made it to, okay, I understand why this guy's a threat. Even with someone like JOJO can stop time, innocents are involved. This guy is willing to shield people, to use anything to hide and to destroy you. But I don't know, some of his actual blasting abilities, I found like, this is one of those enemies I thought like, the mangaka is making it hard for me to believe he's such a threat with his power. The thing is, because he was using heat-seeking missiles, I was like, that's fine. Later, when his power evolves, that's when I was like, okay, now, this... And I have to bring his father in. Now,
Okay, let's do it.
I felt like his father, man. I felt like that was a bit of a plot twist out of nowhere. I don't know, man. It just... When they went into the house, when the first time when they had that three-way battle and they kind of beat him and he ran away, which was fine. I like the fact he ran away and he forced a girl to make a choose. That's all fine. But when they went into his house and his dad was all there all along helping him, I was kind of like, okay, this is the manga kind of forcing his hand to make this guy as unbeatable as possible. And I thought, it's not bad, but the fact his dad's, there's 2 arrows now. What? There's 2 bow and arrows now? Okay, you're stretching it a little bit. And again, these JoJo's Bizarre Adventure has a history of these relics. Like, it begins with the mask in the first part. Then it has the diamond, the blood diamond that the Pillar Men were using. And again, now we've got this bow and arrow. So it's a constant that there are these artifacts that help create these weird monsters, vampires and Pillar Men and stand users. That's fine. But again, because even by the end of the story, the manga doesn't make it clear. Even though they say it was from Dio. Okay, they did say it was from Dio. Dio was the one that had this from Stardust, and that's where it came from. Now there's 2. It kind of felt loose. And the fact that his dad got away and was just making stand users in the middle, I don't know. I kind of was like, I don't know. You know what? I would have preferred it if his dad wasn't in the series at all. He could have, the first guy, the B guy that had the bow and arrow that was making, he could have done all the stand users beforehand. He didn't need to, when they brought in his dad with a secondary bow and arrow, and now he's creating stand user on the fly, I was like, he didn't even need to do that. He really didn't, but whatever. And I just felt like it was plot armor. That's the official term a little bit for me, so I don't know. I want to hear your thoughts on that.
Okay, let's go back to Kira. My problem with Kira, specifically his powers, isn't like that they weren't threatening or anything. Like the guy touches you, he can explode you. That's actually pretty fucking scary to me.
Sure.
The thing about his powers is that they're explosions, and there's times where it's loud, and then there's times where it's silent, and it's like, if this guy's running around blowing people up, people are gonna hear this shit. So that was my problem with his powers, is actually the impact on bystanders' awareness and whatnot.
That never turned up, by the way. That they most of the fights in the show are in the city. Some of them are far away in the forest, whatever. But most, especially that freeway fight with Kira at the shop where they get the clothes done, the laundry shop or whatever. That's in the city. That's in the street. And while
in the middle of the day.
In the middle of the day, and no one comes. They're all in the buildings. You can see buildings across the street. Jotaro, Koichi, and Kira are having explosions, battles, and no one comes. I'm like, just like you said, I was gonna be up later, but I was like, wow, this show does that a few times, even at the end.
Yeah, then was actually worse, because it was like the outside of a building was getting blown up. It wasn't inside; it was like outside. The walls were getting blown up and shit, and people were just like la 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 la. So that was kind of like.
Oh, and here's the funny thing: the last episode, the police came after everything was done. As soon as everything was done, oh, police come. I'm like, it's contrived, but let's forgive all that, because I'll let you continue. But
we don't want to see the police get involved in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
I want to see them die. I want to see collateral damage. I do, because this guy's. But the thing is, because the guy wants to keep things quiet, and he wants to be. But again, I'm like, you got a power, like you just said, that is the opposite of quiet and and silent. It's explosions. They're massive explosions. But anyway. Whatever, I know it's a quibble. We're nitpicking, guys. We love the show. We have to nitpick, though. But I'll let you continue with Kira.
Yeah, well, I mean, if we're talking about his powers, that's my problem with it. His personality, perfectly fine. I don't care. Long-term antagonist, I think he had a good personality. He had an interesting one, is what's important. Because you're talking about this. When you take your antagonist and you make him vulnerable, like, there are times where the story arc is focused on him. And even though he's like this evil bastard and everything, you kind of don't want to see him get caught while he's going through like all these super risky situations and stuff. It's like, it's suspenseful and it's still good because you don't want him to get caught, even though he's this piece of shit basically.
Well, can I to your point? I need to bring up an episode I think you got a lot of comment on. I called you the Katface Killa. This motherfucker, Kira, and then he got beaten by a cat. One of the most disgusting stands I've ever seen. A cat that turned into a plant cat. And that was one of the, again, I love episodes, just like with the fucking shoot a rat episode with Jotaro. You got this cat plant shooting air bubbles that nearly destroys Kira, by the way, that obviously he ends up using at the end. But I forgot the reason why I brought this up, but I have to jump to Kira just for a minute again. Look, you say you don't have problems with that, and I agree with you, man, but when the mangaka put his hand in at one point, I was like, plot armor to the T. It's when that arrow went inside Kira for no fucking reason and gave him the ultimate power for no reason. I was like, are you going to explain? It was awesome. Look, you needed to bring him to the next level. I understand that. But not only did it give him a power, the power he gave him to rewind time, I'm like, that's nearly jumping the shark. You gave him a power that is almost unbeatable, which, all right, if you're coming from a storytelling perspective, you're going to write a battle excellent to beat that. But again, it was like, dude, the arrow has a mind of its own. The arrow decides to give him a power that makes him even more terrifying than possible. And then he takes a plant. I mean, at the end, I was just like, I love this. I love watching this. I love how the protagonists are going to overcome this at the end of the day. But the mangaka's doing everything in his power just to give this guy what he needs. And I hate that in the story. I said this, we spoke about another anime where they just gave, I forgot what it was. The manga just gave him what he needed. And I'm like, you can do that if you want, but try to write it a little bit better. When
we were talking about Carnival.
Oh yeah, you're right. Carnival, when that guy came anyway. Different style, I want to confuse the audience, but yeah, that was exactly right. But when the arrow went in him and just gave him the power, I was like, and if you're going to give someone power, give them a weakness to exploit it. There wasn't really a weakness, and how they exploited it wasn't.
Well,
really...
actually, I would say it was a pretty bad weakness. He didn't know, he wasn't aware of what's actually happening within the scenario he created. That's actually a pretty bad weakness because he basically ran it one too many times. He had everybody, and he ran it one extra time too many times, and he fucked himself.
They just make that more of a karma thing, really. That's how they, to me, that's how it's.
You can call it whatever you want, but that was his weakness, and his weakness caused him to fail.
I say because he kept on saying this thing. The luck is with me. I'm the lucky, the destiny wants me to win. He kept on saying that at the end. I'm like, dude, this is one of those karma situations where, your luck is about to run out. So I don't know.
I mean, it's like I said, it's still the weakness though, and it caused him to lose. But
you didn't feel like that was a bit over when you didn't feel
I feel the first thing is like in terms of elevating the action and everything, it did. So I don't care that much about it. But if you're asking me as an author, I'm not like fucking Brian from Family Guy, but like a guy that actually writes stories and whatever once in a while. You have Koichi. Koichi evolved. His powers evolved because he was backed into a corner several times.
Yeah.
Why couldn't that happen to the antagonist? Why couldn't he just have evolved because he got backed into a corner instead of getting stabbed by an arrow? That is my only problem with that specifically.
You just fixed it, and that makes more sense because then, as you see another character evolve with Santa, you know what? That would have been fine, and it would have taken less effort. I just thought it was very lazy.
Yeah, I was not crazy about the extra. I mean, it was kind of like at the moment, oh well, that's kind of a crazy plot twist. But honestly, like you said, I wasn't crazy about. It basically becomes like, well, how many of these fucking arrows are there out there in the world?
Yeah.
So it takes away. It's one of those less is more things, and they went more instead of less.
I'm reminding the audience, I love the show. I'm just nitpicking. I am.
Oh no! Yeah. I love this show and everything, but that is. It's like I said, it's still Hall of Fame for me. Okay, sure. There's no arguing with this about this with me. But
hey, it's still a vulnerable villain, and again, all the writer was doing was creating a scenario which is a lot more interesting to watch a battle. And again, like I said, he could have just done things a different way to make it absolutely perfect, but nothing's perfect. So it's just I don't want to call it a plot hole, but it's just a little bit like plot armor to get him to where he wants to be. Like, hey, how can I give this guy powers? Oh, fuck it, I'll just let the arrow power him up again for no reason. The arrow just go in him because it's got its own mind. That I don't know why that happened, but okay. If he stabbed himself with the arrow, even that would have been, oh, okay, he wants to give himself another power. But nope, the arrow of its own volition went in his body on its own because the arrow likes evil people. Which again, I don't know if that's the truth or not, but so
I don't know. It's like you said. Not my choice of how to do it, how to get there, but given the results, whatever, I'll wash it.
Sure. And guys listening, you can put your thumbs down. I can't believe you're hating on that part, but again, we're critical when we got to point these things out. But man, that last battle was awesome. All of that, man, I don't even know where to continue.
Dude, all I have to say, of all of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, everything I know, even beyond this. That is my favorite fight scene. It's that very last battle in Diamond is Unbreakable. It is so fucking good. It is just like suspenseful. You're holding your breath. It's like you don't know what's gonna go on. You don't know what's gonna happen. You don't know who's gonna die.
I would have loved it, but something ruined it for me. Something did ruin it for me. It's the character I hate, the Okuyasu. Whatever.
Oh, Okuyasu?
Yeah, it's not that the fact I knew he wasn't dead. Number one, I mean, I knew he wasn't dead. That was like, come on.
He should have died. If he had died, I would have felt okay about that.
They would, after all this time, he was like, the manga was like, I know you don't like him because he's been useless. Well, I'm going to let him be the linchpin at the end that helps Josuke beat him. And I was like, no. Why should he have the hero moment? Why should he? Because he doesn't deserve it. He's just been a cheerleader for the whole fucking show. And Josuke went through all the trouble to save him. I don't know why. But anyway, I was just like, I would have preferred if he wasn't the lead in. He should have just fucking died. He was so useless. I was like, you know what? Fuck this guy. Sorry.
Well, sorry. Not just him. I mean, one of the only criticisms I have, this is like what, number 3? One of the only criticisms I have for this story arc, nobody on Team JoJo dies except for the guy who can collect like money, basically, like a bunch of items. That's the only guy on their team that dies.
You know what, man? I gotta say, man, the way they animated that was horrific. It wasn't that he just died, he got blown up. Then it would show him going into heaven, getting his whole body being blown away. I was like, damn, that was really excessively painful. I mean, the guy can't even ascend to heaven in peace. He's got to ascend to heaven being blown up a second time.
Yeah, that's pretty fucked up. And as soon as the ghost girl saw that, she was like, no.
To me, that was like getting at the feels. You kill a really, and I would say innocent guy, but they kind of made you feel two ways about him. At first, you're like, this little bitch. Then when he dies in such an excessively horrible way, you're kind of like, oh, he didn't deserve that. He didn't deserve that kind of death. You're like, it wasn't that bad. You know, if Okuyasu got that kind of death, I would have preferred it more, because he was bad with his brother a little bit, you know. I don't know how much he participated with his brother helping kill people, but I don't know. I thought, anyway, yeah, honestly, that ruined it for me a little bit. The last fight with Josuke was fucking awesome, by the way. That was great. It wasn't better for me than the three-way fight between Jotaro and Koichi. I'm sorry. But I'm telling you, man, I fucking hated Kira's dad. Because, again, I thought it was a little fucking weasel floating around in his fucking photograph with his fucking arrow like a little bitch. But the way Josuke killed him, oh my God, that was like, you deserve.
It's payoff. It's payoff.
That was more, I was like, you good. And the fact is, it hurt Kira as well. He couldn't believe he killed his dad. I was clapping. It was so karmic. That's what you call karmic. This motherfucker, that guy, the dad was a horrible person, because he knew better as well. Oh, my son, I have to make him happy though. You fuck. You got what you fucking deserve.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, like, the dad was a little weak for me. I didn't like him. Like, the fact that he existed in the story and everything was not a problem, but like him flying around and just shooting people with arrows and his commentary and stuff, when he wasn't directly involved in like action scenes like that last fight, I could have done without him. Yeah. You know, and eating up time in the story. Otherwise, I mean, the way he's used and stuff in the story and the last fight, yeah, that's fine. I mean, it made it fun. That
was absolutely great, because I wanted to see him die, and he died in the best possible
way. Dude, everybody wanted to see him die. I don't think anybody liked that asshole.
No, he was just such a fucking weasel. Anyway, let's get to the end of how Kira actually died, which was absolutely fantastic. Absolutely. And it's one of the most memorable villain deaths I've seen in anime. Memorable, because it reminds me a lot of I don't know if it's Fullmetal Alchemist. It reminds me a lot of Fullmetal Alchemist, because not only the way the manga writes it and the way it's animated, he's not even aware that he dies. And then even when he's in the afterlife, he tries to attack the girl again. It's so deplorable, man. And the way he actually dies in the afterlife as well, he deserved he got killed twice in the episode, but he deserved a triple death. He was so fucking evil, and man, some people can't die enough. I know that doesn't even make sense. Some people can't burn in hell long enough. That guy deserves, his soul deserves to burn forever. That son of a.
Well, let me ask you this, okay? Let's look at the previous antagonists and compare the deaths.
Oh right, yeah.
Let's go with season 1. That's Dio.
Which he didn't die.
he didn't die, but he was a severed head. I mean, and he got lost in the ocean. To the neck. Laser beam. Well, hey, we're talking about specifically how he ended. Okay. So, Kira, worse or better? As a viewer, worse or better?
What do you mean? Whose death did I enjoy more?
Yes.
Out of him and Dio.
Well, yeah, in this season 1, because you think you would naturally think he died here.
You mean on the boat? That fight with him and Jonathan on the boat?
Yeah, as just a head.
Of course, Kira's better death.
Okay, let's go to
Stardust.
No,
let's go to the Pillar Man.
Yes, let's go to Battle Tendency. Now, remember, Cars obtains the ultimate powers of shape-shifting and being able to go in the sun, and Hamon and all that. And then he gets ejected into space. He gets ejected into outer space forever because he's immortal.
Oh my God.
Is that worse?
That is close.
Is that worse than what happens to Kira?
That is such a close second. No, you know why? It's that. Don't even go on about Battle Tendency. There was no way he could win. That was what made it even better. And he was beating someone. That guy is still more powerful than anyone. Still even more powerful than Kira. Look, I enjoyed Kira more, but if you're talking about which one, I almost like these deaths equally. Because
Okay.
on top of that, he's suffering forever. He doesn't exactly die as well.
Because he's immortal, so he's just floating through space forever.
So there's something so satisfying that he's gonna know forever he was beaten by someone that was nothing to him and still got outwitted. So damn, that Joseph is awesome. Oh, I forgot about that one. That's almost a tie, but I have to say, man, Kira was so evil. He was so evil and so cocky at the end that he edges out.
Okay, he edges out just because he's more of an asshole, basically.
Yeah, and his dad as well. They killed so many women. They were so deplorable that even though the Pillar Men, at the end of the day, I didn't see them kill as much people, and so I'm still gonna have to give the edge to Kira. But that was a good second. That was a great second. So go to
and then of course, of course, Stardust Dio gets blown up.
Stardust
by
is funny.
Jotaro.
That's a classic. That's a classic beating, an exploding punch. That's a Mortal Kombat fatality. It was fun. It's just okay. It was fine. It was nice.
It's just okay. So it really, I mean, in terms of anime death, getting dragged to hell a second time, basically dying a second time immediately, or immortal suffering through space.
Again, when you see Full Alchemist Brotherhood, the villain in that I don't want to spoil it for you, the Val creature, he dies in a very similar way, and the villain in Full Alchemist Brotherhood is almost as deplorable. Yeah, the amount of chaos, he's very similar to Kira, to be honest with you. But no, the villain in Full Alchemist is much more evil. It's 10 times more evil than Kira. If you'll find out, all he cares about is killing, is misery. All he cares about is misery, and he dies in a very similar way than Kira. But it's kind of a tie with the Full Alchemist death because they're very similar. If you see it, which I'll probably make you watch that at some point, even though we're not going to talk about it because we did a podcast about it already. But yeah, it's still memorable. If you're talking about anime deaths, then I know we've gone on this a bit long, people. Sorry for dragging this out. But yeah, Kira's death in this show is fantastic. And again, what I will say to wrap this up, this show is very standalone. This show is very standalone in how they built up this enemy that is not Dio. Dio had a legacy from part 1 to part 3. This guy is only in the story, and the feelings you feel for this guy is built up in this one anime part, this one story, which makes it easy for someone to watch and understand. And watching all the heroes go up against all these episodic enemies, but just lingering. I wouldn't even call him a lingering threat because he's not causing them directly any hassle, but this lingering, this legacy of evil throughout this town that has been going on unseen for so long. And when it starts coming to the surface and, having this girl in the alleyway just describing it, I mean, she's a big part of her describing what he's done for so long. And that episode where they brought it in, I thought that was a really good tie-in for her to explain how long this has gone on for, which gave the show legacy, which gave the show a feeling of, man, this guy has to go.
It gave their purpose substance.
Perfect. That's exactly how I wanted to word it. It actually gave the story the weight and the substance it needed for me to really hate this guy. And I will say, before we end, just seeing Kira, by the way, seeing Kira with this kid and his mum, that really drove me over there. Just seeing him, the life he took was of someone, he killed someone's father and terrorizing this kid. He actually killed this kid and rewind the time, and he terrorized this kid by cursing him with that power. It was horrible. It made me hate him even more. So when I add that to how much I hate Kira at the end, he was so cocky. He loved tormenting the kid. Even when the kid thought he won, and the manga kept on fucking with you because when the kid bought the cat plant and thought he had him, it's, oh, look, by accident, I put this in my pocket and it saved me. Ho, 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 ho. Now I just rewind time and we'll do it over again. I was like, fucking hell. It made me hate the mangaka. But we all knew that it was going to come. The good guys were going to win at the end. So,
actually, I feel the opposite about that, though. Like, even though he's being terrible to everybody,
yeah.
I was drawn to his kid instead. And I was like, this kid is basically, because of this last fight, this kid is like, he's backed in the corner. He's going to die if they lose. So he's involved. And he doesn't just stand there talking like, well, I mean, that's basically what he could do. But he doesn't stand there saying a bunch of nonsense and shit. He actually helps them in the fight. And you see this kid develop like the fighting spirit.
Oh, yeah.
Right then and there. I was like, this kid should be the protagonist for the next story arc. Yeah. That's what I was thinking by the end of it.
Part of me wishes that he got a stand at the end to help, even if it was a minor one. But I like the fact he was just a normal human, which made it even more awesome. But part of me was thinking, Kim, you gotta kill this guy because he's talking. He was in the episode for too long. I'm like, dude, this guy's helping. He's telling them to, and he's just sitting there watching. I'm like, are you gonna kill this kid because he's fucking up your plans? I don't know. I don't think he could have anyway because he put that thing in him, but he took it off. He actually took the.
Yeah, he took it off.
He should have killed him. I was like, dude, you gotta kill this kid. He's actually fucking up your plans consistently, and he never did, which is fine. I'll look past that because it doesn't matter. He just, I just think he was focused on Josuke at that
bigger
point.
threats.
Yeah, he was focused on but he was giving them all advice. I was like, you better kill this kid because you know he's fucking up your plans, right? In front of your face. But he loved to torment him, especially when he had that bomb on Oyasuka, and he was like, did I put a bomb on him? Should you heal him? Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. And the kid's like, don't touch him, Josuke. And you know, that was a good scene. He was just fucking, he liked the kid being there, making it even worse. So, anyway. Guys, I know I said that we wasn't going to fawn over this show like we did Stardust.
Well, I mean, we certainly gushed over it, but we didn't break it down like we did Stardust. Like, there's so many good. Let me just say this though, like, if you have a jaded friend, who's jaded with anime and everything, they're like, oh, I've seen everything. Fuck it, I don't. That doesn't sound interesting. You try telling them about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, they're like, that sounds fucking like boring or dumb or whatever. It's like, make them watch the episodes with the guy who doesn't want anybody to see his back. He has that paranoia, or not paranoia, he has that phobia of people seeing his back.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting, honestly. That
I forgot to say, that was one of the most terrifying. Thank you. I almost forgot about the episode. That had to be one of the most disgusting, disturbing, and horrible stands I've seen in the whole franchise.
That episode, that story arc with the, I think it's called Monkey on My Back or whatever.
Yeah, it was.
It's not just, like, this is a suspense thriller, and it's got suspense, and it's got thrills, but also it brings in that horror element that's inherent in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. It's like, that's a scary fucking episode.
Thank you. I would have forgotten to bring that up. And again, it's the Manga guy, which is, again, one of my favorite characters in the whole franchise. And he beats him in a methodical, a strategic way that I never thought about. I probably should have thought or saw it coming, but I was like, wow, and I just felt relieved. It was 2 episodes, so tense, and I actually thought he was gonna die. I actually thought, you know what, man? I actually thought he was gonna have to die and kill the stand at the same time. Or I thought he was gonna find a way to control it. Because again, I know, but lone stands throughout the JoJo's life, some of the most dangerous stands are ones that have no master. Like the monkey stand in Stardust, and there was another standalone one in this series as well. But some of them are the most dangerous ones of all. The ones with no master.
Yeah, the sword was like super dangerous.
Thank you. That's a wicked example. That sword was, it uses people and destroys their lives and kills them. And but I do want to thank you for bringing it up, and I do apologize, old boy, because you're the JoJo fan, but as usual, you make me sound like the super fanboy when you read this manga years before I even watched this anime. So
I mean, well, if we were breaking this down by like all the story arcs and everything within this story arc, then yeah, I mean, I could blabble and talk, but look, it's the best story arc of the 4, hands down.
Yep.
Has the most interesting, most original action. It's the prettiest. When you come to, the protagonist is gonna always win. He's gonna steal all the spotlight. This is gonna be like 80-90% following the protagonist. You don't have that. I mean, you never really had that in Stardust, but you definitely don't have that in Diamond is Unbreakable. It is an ensemble cast. It's an ensemble cast journey.
Yeah.
From beginning to end. Everybody, except for, I guess, Okuyasu doesn't really do anything, but it's pretty even, and it's very interesting. This is how you go from, we've hit our peak in power, and it's just going to keep getting more and more ridiculous. Let's go backwards and make people kind of weaker.
Yes.
And it becomes much more interesting that way. This came out, I think, like in the 90s, maybe early 90s. Nobody else really follows this formula. I don't know why. Why?
Because you know what? Maybe because people have said this. Some people have tried to do more complex out stories, and they don't sell as much as the popcorn, easy to make, super shit that the masses like. And They don't like these. To be honest with you, even now, JoJo is big in anime, you know, but it's still not as big as something like Sword Art Online. It's still not as big as a popcorn, stupid anime. And it's not no Pokemon, it's not no Yu-Gi-Oh! It's respectable because, you know, our generation enjoy it and stuff like that. But still, it's not underground by any means. But I'm just going to say it's still not wide-scale pop culture. I think it will get there eventually, and it's very respected, and it's getting out there, especially because the dubs are coming out. The dub's not coming out fast enough for some people, but I believe right now they're showing Stardust on Toonami, so you know it's getting more awareness, which is awesome. But let me tell you something, man. Everything right with anime, even down to it not appealing to women as much. I do understand that, and then that's another criticism. But to be honest with you, they had that female character in here with the hair. She was awesome. You know, they could have used her more, but this was the first time I think they even had. No, not the first time the female sad user, but one that had more than 1 or 2 episodes. She had the episodes where she went after Koichi. She had the episode where she had the makeup situation. So, and you know, she was. I liked her personality as well. She was a bit of a tsundere bitchy kind of character, which I liked.
She wasn't tsundere. She was yandere. She wanted him so bad she would kill him.
Oh, you're right. Sorry, yandere. Yeah, I don't even know my archetypes.
Yeah, she was arguably the well, at least one of the first ones, if not the first one. I think somebody pointed out that somebody else was, but she was pretty early in there. I liked her. Actually, I don't know why, but it's like I wanted them to have a romance, her and Koichi to have a romance that worked so bad.
And they did.
It kind of did in the end, but you didn't see enough.
I know.
Yeah, you didn't see enough of it. There should have been at least like one story arc where the two of them fought side by side. That would have been really great, because she has like a purely offensive stand power, and then he has like a very not combat orientated one, but it's, if you're clever, it's very useful.
Yeah, and just going back to the point I made, JoJo is everything. Not only is it everything right about anime, in my opinion, but everything about it, the weirdness, the creativity, the animation, is the best of anime, period. It's like, when I see anime, when I think of anime, this is the anime I would say this is a great representation of anime. It is weird as hell, yes, but it's awesome, it's creative, it's different, it's adult, it's everything that it's one of the shows I'm like, you know, it's not a show, believe it or not, even I'm praising this, it's not a show I would still give to someone first, because I think it's too bizarre, haha, but I would give it to them like after a little bit. It would be something like, you've seen here's what the Japanese can really do with anime from a creativity standpoint, from an animation standpoint. This is what sets them apart from Western animation on every level. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
To me, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, especially Diamond is Unbreakable, is something that somebody will love more if they have a love for anime.
Yeah.
Or if they become jaded, like you and I basically, like
yeah.
We're got to be some of the most jaded fucking fans out there of anime. Like we trash talk stuff way more than we praise it.
Not more than my buddy, that anime snob.
Yeah, not more than that guy. But I mean, that's why I said not the most, but
yeah,
we're up there. So it's like, but we love this. We love it so much because it's one of those titles that like you're so used to the by the numbers, the norm, the schlock, all that other crap, and then because it chooses to be different and it does it so well that it's a Hall of Fame for me. I mean, that's how I feel about it.
I concur. Do you know what's funny? This is the best JoJo series out of the 4. Battle Tendency is still my favorite, and it's just because Joseph is the underdog. He's just an underdog in a world full of people that are beyond their power. To this, to even this arc, the people he fought against, it was pure ingenuity. I have more problems with that show than this one, but it's just a favorite. But this show surpassed it on every level in terms of creativity, the battles, all that. It's just my favorite, and Joseph is still my favorite JoJo in particular. But this show is superior. It is the best, without a doubt. Hall of Fame, and I'm right there with old boy. There's not much more I can say. We've fawned over it. And have you got any more to say before we wrap it up?
Actually, I do. You mentioned that this was a standalone story arc. And then that, made me think about the others. Actually, all 4 of them are standalone. You don't have to watch any of them together, just to enjoy them.
I did say that, although, this is the most standalone, though, because if you watch Stardust, they do explain about Dio. You can watch them all standalone, except for I think you need to watch part 1 and 2 together, just because part 1 ends on, it's so short, and it ends on a cliffhangery. You know, the good guy dies. You don't want to end it there. It's really weird to end it there. So I say part 1 and part 2, they're sold as one story anyway. So those two, you can if you want, but those are the only two I'd watch together. You can watch part 3 and part 4 separately. That's
no. I will watch all of them together. Okay, I'm just saying though.
Yeah.
If somebody saw the intro to Battle Tendency, like, oh, I want to watch that, I'd be like, no, you watch this first. No, you can watch it. There's nothing wrong with them watching it first.
You know what? You're right. Battle Tendency. You can watch Battle Tendency. You can't. I don't think you can watch part 1 without Battle Tendency though. You can watch Battle Tendency on its own. I know we're going off topic, guys. Anyway, watch it all. God damn it! Fuck that. Watch everything. Watch it all. It's great. It's one of the best ongoing animes. But before we wrap up, I do want to ask you, because you said this a few times, and I just want to be clear about this. Like,
go on.
Moving on to the future, you did say you've been a little bit more disappointed with the future storylines coming out, and I have heard they have greenlit because it's doing so well. It sells very well. You know, very positive feedback. They're obviously going to do the rest. So I've read the synopsis for the future ones. They still sound interesting. I don't know. So let me tell you how you feel about the ones upcoming, because it's going to be a while. It's going to be a couple of years now.
Yeah, it's going to be a while. So let's dip our toes into it a little bit. My personal feelings. Here is the biggest problems I have with the next 2 story arcs, which are Venturo Ario. It's Italian. And Stone Ocean. We'll start with Venturo.
Wasn't it Steel Ball Run? Oh, I don't know.
Steel Ball Run is 7.
Oh, okay, whatever. I don't know. Go on.
It's okay. Don't worry about it. Venturo does not follow a JoJo. I mean, the guy's name is JoJo. I think it's Giorno Giovanni or something like that, who is Dio's kid, but he's not a JoJo. It's just, that's something that really bothered me.
I heard it's Dio's kid from Jonathan's body, though.
It's from his body, but he's not. To me, that doesn't make him a Joestar. Okay, it doesn't.
You know what that makes him? That makes him. He's got 2 daddies.
It does make him have 2 daddies. Yeah, I mean, but the other biggest problem with that is, like, in Diamond is Unbreakable.
Yeah.
Josuke does not feel like the protagonist.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
In Venturo, Giorno does seem more like the protagonist, but his personality is just so bland. It's so blah.
No.
Like, I don't know what to say. His aspirations is he wants to become a mafia leader, which is all the characters, everything. It's all centered around mafia, which is fine. That's not the problem. Okay. The problem is that just his personality is boring and just blah.
So we're not going to get a Gungrave situation then? Was it like Gungrave where you gave up?
No, because I already finished it for one. So, but that being said too, his power is really, is just boring. It's blah. Like, oh no.
Don't go into it too much, because you know we're going to talk about it. We're going to watch.
No, this is not too much. You find out right away, anyways. But his power is like, damage dealt to it is reflected back to the source.
What? Damage what?
Damage dealt to his stand, or whatever his stand has affected, is reflected back at the source.
Oh, that's funny. Okay.
It's pretty boring. So there's that. It's another ensemble run, which is fine. I mean, it's kind of spread out evenly. They got some interesting battles. Not as good as Diamond is Unbreakable by any means. It's like 2 or 3 steps lower than that. But they got some interesting stuff that goes on. They got some interesting powers that go on. Some of the characters are, because they're all hoodlums and stuff, they're more interesting because of that. But in the end, I wasn't really like, yes, I love this guy, or, oh, okay, that guy's got some really cool powers or whatever. It's all kind of just black. Okay, it's like Stardust Crusaders C-.
Yikes.
The next one, so I mean, that's my feelings about Venturo. I mean, okay, just at a glance. Okay, so the next one is Stone Ocean. Now, Stone Ocean is about Jotaro's kid. Her name is Kujo Jolene. Okay, Kujo Jolene, she ends up going to prison on trumped up charges, and her personality, again, it wasn't enough. I mean, basically, like from story arc 4 on, it seems like the protagonists have personality issue standing out or something. I mean, I didn't gel that well with her. Her
You know,
power is.
I was
her
hoping
power
she
is really
was
interesting.
I was hoping she was the invisible girl. That's what I was kind of thinking, but she's not.
She is not, and I think it would have been interesting if she had been. But her power is really neat.
Okay.
So it leads to some really interesting scenarios where her body can unravel. That's her power, which is not necessarily combat oriented, but I mean, especially considering she's in a prison, it's pretty useful actually, and then it's also pretty dangerous for her. So that's interesting. But again, her personality is just like I'm reading this, I'm just like I don't really care about her. I mean, she's JoJo's kid, and I should care. I don't care about her. So that was my problem with Stone Ocean.
Okay. I heard the next two is when the mangaka starts a whole new universe and just leaves the kind of Joestar universe per se. That's what the Wikipedia said anyway.
Are you talking about the two I just mentioned, or the two afterwards?
The two afterwards.
The two afterwards are Steel Ball Run and JoJo Lion, which I don't know who told you that. They might break from the universe up to that point, but Steel Ball Run is about a Joestar in the Frontier West. So no, that doesn't break from the Joestar universe. It does break from this universe because they're going backwards in time.
Yeah.
And then JoJo Lion is an alternate reality, and it happened. The manga artist, was inspired by the compassion of people in Japan after the Tokyo earthquake, the recent Tokyo earthquake,
Right.
and actually was a part of helping people before he went back. And he's like, I'm going to draw this. I'm going to draw a story arc based off of that.
Wow.
So it's tied into that earthquake. And I haven't read either one of those, but I mean, it's still tied to the Joestars. I mean, both the protagonists are. Do you want me to spoil JoJo Lion? This is actually something that kind of disappointed me.
Nah, we'll have to talk about that off mic because this podcast has been long enough, and we want to save something for future. You know, we'll get to it when we get to it. But by the pace the anime is coming out, probably be in about 10 years.
Actually, I don't know about that. They banged these out really fast. I mean, you think about what do you call it? Phantom Blood came out in 2012.
Oh, you're right. I guess you're right.
Yeah, so David Productions is on the ball with this shit. They already have the source material. They're just, I mean, they're methodically pounding it out. I'd expect Ventura Aro in like 2 years.
All right. Well, you make sense. What you're saying is right. So maybe less than 5 years then. So let's see. But I think that's everything on both our ends, right?
I think so. I mean, I might miss some things, but whatever. I mean, you know what's important.
Yeah.
What's great about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, what was great about Diamond is Unbreakable, our nitpicks on it, and then, hey, make people watch JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. It's fucking fantastic.
Yeah, I'm trying to force my brother and sister to get on it. They're both stuck on Stardust still, and they both enjoy it. They just, life gets in the way sometimes. But I'm so glad, as I said in the very beginning, I'm so glad I waited to the end and then caught up, and then we just did it. So by the time this podcast comes up, it'll probably be mid-January because I've got to edit it. You guys already know that I'm busy. I'm kind of off, but me and Old Boy still got things we're tackling. I'm still here on Planet Tyro, uploading videos. You know what we're doing here. But I want to thank my buddy, the Katface Killa, for coming on for this one, the JoJo Bizarre Adventure expert.
Well, dude, I want to thank you for, one, keeping this project running for 7 years so we could talk about my favorite story arc of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, because I never would have imagined we would have talked about it when we started this project so long ago, because they weren't even animating this stuff. We had the fucking bad looking cartoon of Stardust Crusaders, and that was it for JoJo's Bizarre Adventure in anime.
Yeah.
Okay, the other thing is, thanks for putting up with me to talk about this, because it's my favorite story arc. It's actually possibly my favorite story arc of any series. I mean, that's how good I like it.
Buddy, I've done most of the talking. So I thank you and the audience for listening to me ramble and gush on about this series. But guys, if you got through the end of this podcast, thank you. If you listen to the other parts we covered, all the other earlier parts, which again, you can check on the YouTube card by clicking on the top right hand corner. We got a whole playlist of anime and JoJo coverage you've already covered. Thank you for listening. Thank you for commenting. You can deliberate with us with anything we said, anything you think we missed or anything. We can't cover everything, but we can only cover what we can remember and what we've noted down. But guys, I love your interaction. I love your points. And, if anything's great, we'll bring up on the next one. And, we're looking forward to more JoJo, more good anime titles. But for now, I guess we'll leave it at that. So, again, you can see the videos on the screen that YouTube are recommending to you. Because YouTube are in your brain and they know what you like. So, whatever they're recommending to you, check out. If you like the channel, If you like the video, of course, give a thumbs up to let us know you like the conversation. Subscribe to Planet Tyro on YouTube and on the podcast. You'll listen to this on your iTunes podcast, aggregator, what have you. Thanks for listening as well. Oh boy, one more time, thanks for coming on. And guys, we'll see you in the next one.
Yeah, hey, you know what? Love it or hate it, thank you for watching JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. See you around.